What up, Dynasty players in the house? It's the Dynasty front office on the Dynasty Warzone Network. Please like and subscribe. I'm your host, Jesse Schneeman, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts tonight. My main man, Chad Mendoza. How you doing tonight, Chad?
I'm doing great, man. Ready for some trade talk. Yeah, I'm excited to go over some rosters and yeah, let's have some fun.
Right on, let's do it. I'm 0 for 2 on my openings. The auspicious Austin Bell in the last 2 weeks. I'm 0 for 2.
That's all right. You're here with a Panther fan. It rubs off on people sometimes.
How is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's
You've been talking about them too much this year.
The overall incompetency.
Yeah. But I'm good, man. We're not going to talk about the Panthers today. I don't think. I've looked over this roster. I don't think I saw any on here, so we may completely make a whole episode. All right, just kidding.
Foreshadowing, there's one Panther.
Yeah, that's right. I do remember now. But yeah, man, I'm good. It's fantasy's kind of coming back to what I thought. I ain't gonna say full circle because I'm not undefeated in first place in all mine, but I started off terribly rough. And it's like coming back around, like I'm getting back up to 500 or a little bit above 500. So feeling a little bit better than I did after the first couple weeks.
Last 2 weeks have been fun.
Yeah.
A lot more like we expected the first few weeks. But, I mean, with no real hitting in training camp and shortened preseason where nobody plays, I guess that's the kind of thing we have to expect now. I mean, it's been a thing for a long time. It's just extending longer and really looking a lot worse than it used to.
Yeah. I agree. Right. How are you though?
I'm great. I'm wonderful. It's Halloween season, so I'm happy.
That's right.
Everything's spooky, not scary. Not my house. So tonight we got our trade banger of the week that we're gonna throw out there. Chad's gonna because Austin and I made the trade, so really Chad's gonna be the one that gives the commentary, and then we'll defend it, and then we're gonna start a rebuild. A lot of what we've been doing was sort of like, all right, well, what's this guy worth? Well, he's worth this on this roster. He's worth this on that roster dependent. Should we trade this player off of a roster? Well, we're going to tell you that we're rebuilding, and that's how we're going to focus on this specific team. And we're just going to go through the players, and maybe we might want to hold some of these players and not trade them. Maybe we think they'll gain value and trade them later. Or maybe we think we have to strike now. I will say that the streets are hot right now, or heating up anyway, with Dynasty trades.
They definitely are.
Yeah. All right, Chad, what do you think of this? This is our trade banger of the week. Brian Thomas Jr. and a 2025 third for T. Higgins and Tank Dell.
12-team Superflex. 1 wide receiver, 1 running back, 1 tight end. 5 flex. Big play bonus.
Brian Thomas Jr. in a third for T. Higgins and Tank Dell.
Yep.
I like the T. Higgins Tank Dell side. Yeah, I really like Tank Dell. I think T. Higgins is, playing well enough. And Burrow's playing well enough to move him for, plus value at this point. And I think Tank Dell's value is only going to increase as the season goes on with how he's going to be playing the rest of the season.
Even when Nico comes back?
When is he set to come back?
I don't know if they've said. It was a hamstring and they put him on IR immediately.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. I mean, those hamstrings can be tricky. It's probably going to affect him the rest of the season if they haven't designated him for a return yet.
God, that's so sad.
Yeah,
that is such a sad statement you made right there.
I mean, and that's just me. That's just me guessing, right? That's my best guess. But those things can linger throughout the season, especially for wide receivers. So they're never fun. But I like the Tank Dell T. Higgins side personally. But if you're really high on Brian Thomas Jr., it's what you got to pay to get him. You've got to pay quite a bit, and that is quite a bit.
What do you think about how the way Tank has looked so far? There's been a lot of there's been a lot of echo about how he doesn't look like the same player.
I mean, we're like just about a fourth of the way through the season. I mean, it's. I mean, he's coming back from some significant events. It's going to take time for him to look like an informed Tank Dell that we saw towards the end of last season. So, or towards the end of his season rather. Yeah, I mean, I would just say he's a very talented player. I think we're going to see it. It's just a matter of giving him some time, which is understandable. I think the same is going to happen when Nico comes back, right? Like he's probably not going to come back and look like Nico Collins, day one.
Right on. All right, Austin, you got Brian Thomas Jr.
I did.
All right, talk to me about why you made this trade.
I wanted another alpha on my roster. I was sitting Tank Dell, Higgins, Pickens, Ridley, and like 2 other guys every single week because of the depth I had. And having JJ, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Garrett Wilson, I felt like I could handle one more alpha on this team and lose a little bit of depth. The reason trade-wise, I sent a second to you, and that's because I thought that was what was fair. I thought the value was right, but of course you couldn't just take the fair trade. You were like, "Oh, I need a third instead," or this and that. And
All
then,
right.
of course, Tank Dell goes off finally because if we would have made this trade this week, I would have gotten a second. But the trade was
Sure.
made last week before Tank went 7 for 90 or something like that.
And a touchdown, right?
Yeah, so that's just how it works in fantasy. And Brian Thomas had an off game, so if we make this trade this week, I'm definitely getting a second. But it is what it is. I wanted the player who I believe can be an alpha, whereas I think both Tank Dell and T. Higgins are betas in fantasy football. Solid
In,
players, good flex pieces, but never going to be that alpha on a roster.
in fairness to my counter, it was a 26 second that you asked for, and it was a 25 third that I sent you.
Correct. Correct.
I gave you a little.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
So from my side, I have some pretty elite pieces, Bijan and Neighbors, and I can't remember what else, but I probably like Bowers, I think. And I need depth. I find myself starting for my last couple flex spots every week, just guys that I don't want to. So it just made sense to me to be able to add 2 starters for one. And also I see BTJ as a high-end wide receiver too. I don't think that's his ceiling. I do think his ceiling is a wide receiver 1, like kind of a low-end wide receiver 1, but I think the likely outcome is high-end wide receiver 2, which is still an excellent player. So,
yeah, I mean, even in a off game last week, 3 for 27, he's still wide receiver 13 on the season.
Yeah, right on.
So, for a rookie, I'll take that and hope that the ceiling can be where I was hoping.
Yeah, I think.
What do you guys
ahead.
think about T. Higgins? I think that's like the kind of the most interesting part of the trade. In a player we haven't really discussed much because he's just really getting back from missing a couple of games here.
He feels pretty safe this year. He's been good since he came back, but obviously the off-season stuff is going to be very volatile. So he could go somewhere that, maybe he could go somewhere that looks good on paper where he makes a lot of money, but maybe the quarterback situation isn't great. Where he doesn't gel right with the quarterback, or maybe he's just not a number 1 wide receiver. I don't know. I think the fit is going to be really important for him. What do you think, Austin?
Yeah. Health has always been my biggest issue with him is I feel like he always has a soft tissue issue. So I don't have many shares because of that. It's always frustrating when I do have them. And that was partly why I was okay moving Higgins. I don't remember I think I sent you Pickens initially. It was Pickens and Tank Dell.
Okay. Yeah.
And I said I would swap Higgins either way, whichever way you wanted to do it. And you're
Yeah,
like,
my response was like it's a non-starter for Pickens.
Yeah, which is fine. I don't mind holding him. But Higgins is he's a flex play for me in fantasy leagues. Like I don't feel good at all if he's my wide receiver 1, 2, or 3 on a championship team.
I agree. I mean, 3, I'm okay with it if he's my wide receiver 3. I'm okay with
Yeah,
that.
I
I
guess.
do think I'm getting my 12 to 15 out of him every week.
Yeah.
I think you've got to try to move him. Me
Oh, yeah?
personally. Yeah, I mean, I think he's got a good stretch of games here where he's looking really, really good. I mean, personally, I've been watching the Bengals games since he's been back. He looks excellent. Like he looks
He does.
really, really good.
Yep.
I mean, he looks like he could be a wide receiver 1 on 90% of the teams in the league. Like he looks really, really good. But yeah, the injury history scares me, and I think people are seeing that right now. And their schedule has been super, I mean, it's been a cakewalk basically. As far as, going up against defenses, it's going to get significantly harder here coming up. So I think if you can move him now, that's where I'd be trying to go with it, especially with the uncertainty there in the offseason.
Mhm.
But yeah, as far as like the value on the trade, I think if you could trade Higgins away for what his value is, probably right now, I mean, I like your side a lot on that trade, Jesse. I think you've got, significantly more value than what Brian Thomas is probably
Wha
being traded for right now. I think you should have given a second back at least,
Thank you.
personally. But yeah.
Right. That doesn't help me in future negotiations with Austin. I'm sure I owe him in a second.
I
And then
know it all the time. If we make a trade, I know I'm not winning the trade. That's just how it works. Like that's why I don't do trades with you often
it's
because
weird.
I
I
know I'm
lose them,
not winning them.
but I lose trades all the time.
Not with me, you don't.
I
You're like,
do.
oh, I know this guy. I gotta damn kill him.
You can't make as many trades as I do without losing trades. It's just
Oh, absolutely. We all do.
you can't be a dynasty player and not lose trades. You just can't be afraid to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but this is definitely that trade where you can look back on it a year from now and be like, man, like Austin stole Brian Thomas. So I mean, you never know, right? Like these
That's true.
players can fluctuate really, really quickly, and guys that are, super volatile like T. Higgins, Tank Dell, and Brian Thomas with him, with the unknown factor as far as him going off in the beginning of his rookie season here. He has all the upward mobility in the world, and the other guys have been super volatile. Maybe not to their any fault of their own, but it's just the nature of the game here.
So we don't do you should trade this guy here. So what do we expect to get for T. Higgins?
Contenders first and second. That's probably what
First
I'm
and
shooting for. Shooting for. Do I know if
Yeah.
I can get that? I don't know. Maybe a first and a rookie I like that hasn't just boomed yet. Something like that.
Yeah, it feels a little tough. Malachi Corley,
Yeah, that don't do it for me, but
AD
I get.
Mitchell.
Yeah, like that's exactly the kind of player I was thinking.
Okay. You're not getting Leggett.
Probably not. I mean, some people are still really low on him, but
Yeah, he's starting to pop up in the redraft lists, like the weekly waivers. So once you see that, then people are paying attention to him. You're not getting him for a random second.
yeah, agreed.
All right. I
Yeah,
mean, a first and a second feels optimistic to me. I think
agreed.
I think a first is realistic.
Yeah,
I wouldn't do it for less than a first.
I think
agreed.
if it's a contenders first where a guy has a significant chance of winning the league, I don't think a first and a second's out of the realm of possibility. I think that is a little rich. They may want something back in return there, but I think a first, if you're talking about a back end first, is a little light too.
Yep.
So T. Higgins and Javon Baker for a first and AD Mitchell.
I'm fine with that.
Does that sound pretty fair?
Yeah, man, I hate the Colts offense, but I like the player.
Right on. Javon Baker's not even playing.
Yeah, which is
Keyshawn
sad.
Butte is dunking on him right now.
Yeah, that's okay though. I mean,
Mhm.
it's a rookie. Takes time sometimes. Just like Troy Franklin wasn't even on the active roster the first couple weeks, and here he is catching 3 or 4 passes in the first half. So it can take time sometimes.
Sure, yeah. And I mean, look at Jalen Tolbert.
Yeah.
Another raw prospect, and we all knew that Baker was pretty raw coming out. It was going to
Agreed.
take some time. All right, let's get to some rebuild.
Let's do it.
All right.
Oh man, got to take the jacket off for this. He knows it's getting serious.
That's right. It's getting hot down here in the basement.
Oh, it must be nice.
All right, y'all. So I have a roster that I want to rebuild. I will preface this by saying the league's a little tight, man. It's not easy to make trades in this league. So there's some content creators, and I don't know exactly why people don't want to make trades, but it does feel a little like guys are afraid to be wrong, afraid to lose a trade in front of other content creators. I don't know if that's really what it is, but like I said, it is a little tight. Let's just kind of dig into it. I want to rebuild it. I biffed the startup. So
What
I
year is
have
this for the league? Sorry, I think that's an important context.
okay, yeah. I think we're going into the third. It's a fairly new league.
Okay. Well, 3 years is at least long enough for people to I'm sick of this player kind of thing.
Oh,
It's
this is the second year. My
okay.
goodness. Okay. So it's a very new league. This is the second year for this league.
Okay.
I hated it right from the startup. I hated my team. I made several mistakes and I just didn't like it. I took chances that didn't work out.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. I also took Fields in the first, who is not even on my
Oh,
roster anymore. I
oh,
traded him for a series of like second round and third round level assets.
do you want me to go through the main guys?
No, let's just go one by one.
Okay.
I don't like listing stuff off.
Okay.
So let start at the top.
Yeah, sure. We'll get this one over with.
I sent
Um,
trades out to the top 7 teams. Andy Dalton for a 2027 second and was turned down across the board.
that's tough. I'll be honest with you. That's tough. Like
Right?
I, I mean, I don't know how much less you expect. Like I mean, I guess you just hope, as terrible as it sounds, you just hope a quarterback injury occurs.
Mm-hmm.
Or each week you look and see who has who on bye and see if they're like, oh crap, I don't have a quarterback this time, and then you pounce that, send the same trade.
Or do I just
Mm.
send that same trade every week to everyone?
I don't mind sending it to everyone, even the
I'm not gonna.
non-contenders, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be I wouldn't be stressing out about it. There's no trade deadline in the league, so I mean, people we're going into we're still in the first half of the season, so people are not feeling the pressure. Even if they have a quarterback go down, the guys that have really good teams, they're thinking to themselves, I can probably survive this until my guy comes back, unless something catastrophic happens, which is what you're kind of hoping for. I mean, it's a kind of shitty way of saying it, but
Yeah.
really that is what you're hoping for. And once that happens, that's when you're going to be shopping your guy, and it's probably going to be around like, week 12, week 13, 14.
Okay, well, for Dalton, you got to be careful with that because if the Panthers keep losing, there's gonna be a time where Bryce comes back on the field this year because Dalton's a free agent. He's 37. If they're 1-10, there's a good chance we see Bryce again, just to make sure that he's not who he was or is who he was, whatever it may be. That's just at me listening to beat reporters. It seems that clock is starting to tick because you put Dalton in expecting it gave you the best chance to win, and it did. The offense looks better. You can at least scout your players to see if they're worth anything. But 1-3, and then 1-5, and then 1-8, 1-9 going into the bye is a whole lot different discussion. So that's something to keep an eye on if you're a Dalton manager and you're not contending.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
defense is out of control bad.
Oh yeah, it's
So
god awful.
I think you have one player at this point.
Yeah.
If Chasey Horn is healthy.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point, Austin. A really great point. I just think in Jesse's situation here, right? He's I mean, you're talking a third, right? That's what people are probably gonna accept at this point. Which at that you're really just going into it and risking it and saying, okay, well, I mean, I just gotta hope Bryce doesn't take the job sooner than I can get rid of him. Keep
Agreed.
trying, obviously, but you can't get rid of him for a third. You might as well hold him at that price and see what happens in free agency.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I needed to know.
He could come back to Carolina. There is an avenue for that. If they can't figure somebody else out, the free agent market is terrible for the quarterbacks this coming year. there's a chance they sign him to a 1-year, $7 million deal, and he's battling Bryce Young again in the offseason for the job.
I think he's done
So
a good job. I don't think he's the reason that they've been losing these games. He's the reason they lost the last game,
correct.
but he's not the reason he's lost most of these games.
Yeah, I mean, he's a below average NFL starter, which for
Yeah.
them is way above what they were getting to start the season. So,
Right. Yeah. Okay. Right
you
on.
take it.
I mean, he's going to play above average in some games. He's going to play really hot in some games.
Yeah.
All right. So, but that's what I needed to know about Andy Dalton. Like, I'm holding for a second. I'm not
Yep.
giving him for anything less than a second. Okay. Cool.
agree.
He's on my roster. All right. How about Kenneth Walker?
One more thing going back to Andy Dalton really quickly.
Mhm.
If guys are really not wanting to, and this is just general strategy across the board, right? But if guys are not wanting to give up picks for a player, especially a player like Andy Dalton, which makes sense, right? It's hard to stomach that, knowing you're giving away some future unknown for a guy that is probably not going to give you much other than this season, right? So what you can do instead is just look for guys in a slump, right? Look for guys that you believe in, nobody else does, and say, all right, well, I'll take a hit on this guy, knowing that maybe he's not going to do anything for me this season, but help me lose, which is what I probably need on this roster. And then, next year or the year after, maybe he becomes something a little bit more than what Andy Dalton can give me pick wise right now.
I got a really interesting name. Being you don't want points this year, what about Hollywood Brown? If a contender has him in IR, would you do that?
Isn't he like 28 or 29 at this point?
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, but it's also not about, and Hollywood Brown, I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting one to think about, but it's not about, do I have to do this for a player I'm going to keep forever, right? It's just about
Sure.
I'm doing this for a player who may see a value bump where I can get rid of him. It may be easier than I can Andy Dalton.
Yeah. What about two lesser guys that I really like are Michael Wilson and Demario Douglas. Are they worth enough? Either one of them?
Pop is. I think Pop Douglas is worth Andy Dalton. But I don't know if this is the week to try to buy him after Drake May targeted him like 40% of his first reads.
Mm.
It was highest in the league last week. So if that continues, then this week might be the time to buy him. But it could have been an anomaly and just a scheme thing. So, but yeah, I mean, I like Pop Douglas. I think he's got a really good chance to be a good flex play on a team.
What about Ricky Pearsall?
I'm not touching him personally.
What do you think, Chad?
Yeah, I'm staying away. It's a lot going on there.
Okay. Right on. All right, let's move to Ken Walker.
Let's do it.
All right, so I talked to you guys about a negotiation that I had this week for this player. I won't say the other owner's name, but he's been bugging me about this player. He asked me numerous times to send him offers. He won't send me an offer. So I sent him an offer for 2 firsts for Ken Walker and Charbonnet, and he turned it down. He said, well, I don't want to get rid of my first for this year and next year. It'll deplete me too much. Well, okay. So then I sent an offer of Ken Walker, Charbonnet, and Gesicki for Puka and a second. And he turned that down as well.
What's the premium in this league? So everybody knows.
I believe it's 0.75, but I'm
Okay.
going to just check that while you tell me what you think of those offers. Do you think they were too
No,
aggressive?
I mean, I don't think either one I really have a problem with. And
Yeah, it's
the thing,
0.75.
the thing when you're trading two contenders is you hold a little bit of leverage when you're dealing away great producing assets. Because if you're not going to trade to them, somebody else may pay that. So if you have, as long as your price points are reasonable, don't panic if that person you're trying to trade with doesn't accept it. Don't accept that a first and a second, even though you really thought they were worth two first. It's okay to just give it like Chad's been saying, give it a couple weeks or go shop somewhere else. That doesn't mean somebody else won't buy that price point. But I didn't have a problem with either trade. The Puka one I think is a really good idea. I understand why the Puka manager would not do that. But I really like the idea of trying to push those players for an asset that should gain value before the end of the season.
He's got him on the trade block.
Yeah.
Actually, looking at this league, I mean, running backs should be valued, a bit higher than they normally would be in standard formats. It is a start one running back, but running backs get a 0.2 bonus per rush attempt. They also get 40-plus yard rush bonus.
Crazy.
And then they also get a 0.2 reception bonus for running backs.
Yep.
Wide receivers get no extra bonuses other than the standard PPR, and tight ends get the 0.75 premium.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why you would do that, creating a league, give all the bonuses to running backs. But, I mean, at the end of the day, you take advantage of that where you can.
To make them more relevant. I mean, if it's a start one running back league.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's interesting, Yeah.
I love quirks in leagues. You have to abuse them where you can.
So I'm just straight up holding, especially since I have the leverage of having Charbonnet as well. So like you can't tell me that this is an injury prone player because I have his backup, a high level backup.
Yeah.
That's at least an RB2 if Walker's out.
I mean, I have no issue trying to move them into other people. I mean, at those price points, like I said, maybe go after Waddle. See if you can get Waddle plus something.
Okay. For just Walker, though.
Either one, whichever way the manager wants it. I mean, for you, of course, just Walker. But if he wants Charbonnet too, then you add roughly a mid-second in value to it.
Right on.
I mean, I would value Walker significantly higher in this league than I would normal leagues. I mean, this scoring is pretty insane. I mean, it's actually kind of nuts. Alvin Kamara and Derrick Henry have outscored every quarterback other than Lamar Jackson on an average week basis. Kenneth Walker is the 7th overall player in the league on an average week basis.
Wow.
Yeah, he's got some good totals here, actually. So what would you want for him, Chad?
I'd want 2 first.
Straight up, just for him?
Yeah, I mean, in this league, in this format, I'd want 2 first.
Cool.
The problem with that is I play in a lot of leagues that have quirks and changes that aren't normal. Most managers don't have the wherewithal to remember that when they get a trade offer. So they see Kenneth Walker for 2 first and like, you're right. Little do they know, like Chad said, he's the 7th highest scoring person in the league. So a lot of times when you send that stuff, you have to, I kind of leave a message underneath. Hey, remember the PP point per carry bonus. Remember this bonus. That way they see the trade and maybe they'll be like, oh, okay, that makes more sense.
Also, he's 23.
Yeah.
I'm not under any pressure.
No, I mean, hold him. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, you don't want to give away all your good assets. You want to get what they're worth. And I mean, Kenneth Walker in this format, week 1 scored 23.3 points, week 4, 36.8, week 5, 17, week 6, 25.3. I mean, this format's just nuts for running backs. And he is, one of the top running backs this season. So I wouldn't be in a rush to give him away.
All right. Let's move to Pittman. I don't have any idea what to ask for this guy, and there's probably not that much demand for him.
Yeah, he's tough. With A-Rich coming back, you have no idea what to expect. With his back being injured, you have no idea what to expect each week.
He's been good for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, he's solid. I mean, I wouldn't sell him for less than a late first, but I don't know how many people are going to give up a first for him.
Yeah. What are the chances I can get more than that if I hold him, to playoff time?
I mean, I don't think you're going to see him go down any aside from injury. And if he gets hurt, then that's fine.
Yeah.
He's not an asset that's going to depreciate so much this offseason. So, I mean, he's worth a hold unless somebody comes knocking.
I don't know, man. Isn't he going to hit 28 this offseason?
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh,
pretty sure.
All right. Yeah, he's 27.
I would be trying to get rid of him this season. I would take that late first if you can get it. Even if it's 2027 first, I'd take it. I'd just cut your losses. You can't afford the risk to lose value on this player. with your roster being so barren, I know listeners don't have the luxury of seeing the entire roster, but it's in pretty bad shape.
Mm-hmm.
So although you don't want to give up value on guys like Kenneth Walker, who have a good chance to retain that value over time, especially in this format, Michael Pittman's not one of those guys. And so I think you got to try to find a way to get some good value for him this season.
Find a way to get a first worth of value for him.
Yeah.
Even if it's for like a hurt player. What about? Yeah, I get Rashi Rice for him.
It's a good swing. Depends. The roster that has Rice is going to have to be a big time contender needing help, but otherwise probably not.
What would you want to be added to him to give up Rashi Rice?
Probably your second if it wasn't a contender, and I'm not even. Yeah, probably not that much. Probably a mid second.
I mean, I have a mid second. Yeah, I mean, the guy that has Rashi Rice, let's see, he is a contender.
Is he hurting? Does he have an ugly flex? Because that's a good way to get a trade done is when somebody has an ugly flex for that week.
Right.
It's like, oh, man, I could play Pittman this week instead.
My eyes are terrible.
What about Penix?
Oh, I'd love to get Penix for him. You think that's a fair deal?
I mean, I'd probably want a little bit on top since he's playing, but I don't know how much more you can get.
He's 2-4.
The guy that has Penix.
No, the guy that has Rashi Rice and struggling to hang on. Yeah, I'm definitely taking that swing. He won the league last year.
Okay. Chad, what do you think about Pittman and Penix? You think there's a plus there?
Yeah, I think you got to try to get a little bit more. It depends on who has Penix, right? If it's a guy that's not really looking to compete, what's the point? So I think it's just going to be team dependent. I haven't looked to see who has him.
All right, so I'm going to send it for Rashi Rice. I have his second.
I would just send it straight to start, see where it goes.
Okay.
It's going to get declined, but to see if he counters.
All right. Well, how about I send a third with it? Or
I don't know. I mean, as a rebuilder, I hate giving up picks unless I'm getting a sure thing, and unfortunately, Rashi Rice is not a sure thing.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I would rather target a guy like Roma Dunze and give up a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
And especially because in this league, Roma Dunze is on a team that is competing. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can get him off him for a guy that's going to help him to compete.
Maybe Pittman and Cooper for a Dunze.
Really? You think that's enough?
No, but I think it's at least a good starting offer.
I was going to say Pittman and Ingram.
Yeah. I don't have a problem either one.
Yeah.
Cooper's probably got a little name boost right now with the trade.
I think Ingram carries more value because he's 0.75 premium.
Yeah. I would let this this is the good thing about this week, right? The Bears are on a bye week. Roma Dunze is not playing. Let me see what his schedule looks like here. He's got a soft schedule here, really, really soft schedule. So what I would try to do is, in all likelihood, he's not going to blow up, but you never know, right? You never know how these things are going to work. And this Bears offense looks like it's evolving every week that passes by. So you don't want to catch this trade at the wrong time. I would let this bye week play out, see if Amari Cooper plays. There's a chance he's not going to play. But hopefully he does. If he has a big game there week 1 with Buffalo, that's going to boost him a little bit. You can try to throw that in there and see if that gets it done. Maybe even throw him both options and say, hey, look, man, throw you 2 options here. Don't know which players you prefer, but, players pick and see if you can get either one done.
You wouldn't send it now?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. I just think it's once he says no, right? So It just depends. Do you think Amari Cooper is gonna, come and hit the ground running? If he does, if he has a good week, week one, with Buffalo and Josh Allen, then that helps the trade significantly. I think it's tough if you offer the trade now with just the prospect of Amari Cooper playing in Buffalo.
But that's
turns
not
that
even the
down.
trade that I want to offer him. I wanted to offer him Ingram.
Yeah, throw
I
the
think
Ingram
it
trade
works
out there.
better because he has Pat F starting this week, and he
Yeah.
also has Damian Pierce starting,
Yeah,
and he's playing Jesse. So it would not only help his chances to win this week, playing Jesse, taking points off, but it would also let him fill his roster much better with Ingram and Pittman.
All right,
yeah,
stop.
yeah. I mean, it just depends on who you'd rather get rid of. I mean, pick the guy that you don't want to get rid of. I mean, that you want to get rid of and try that first. And if it doesn't work, then you can swing with the other guy.
I mean, I want to get rid of all of those guys. They're all too old to be on my roster. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I understand that. What I mean is you want to get rid of, ideally in a package deal, you want to get rid of the guy that's harder to get rid of. Right.
sure, which I think is Pittman.
No, I mean, yeah, we're talking about Amari Cooper and the tight end.
Right. So,
And
but
Ingram.
like, I don't think that Amari Cooper deal is going to get done. I right now there's just way too much. It's too much like up in the air, and like if I'm sending it now, I'm factoring in that he has bye weeks, so I want to give him two players that he can just plug into his lineup right now. So it's more incentive for him to make an impulsive move.
Yeah, shoot out.
And if that doesn't work out, then I have the wait to see what Amari Cooper does this week in my back pocket. If he does look good with Josh Allen, then I can send that next week if he's already declined it with Ingram.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Speaking of Cooper, are you buying as a contender? Are you paying a late second for him?
He's interesting now, isn't he?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when was the last time Amari Cooper was not worth a mid to late second?
Oh, he's probably always been worth that, I would assume.
Yeah. It's been a very long time. It's been worth that.
Or more.
It's been so long ago. Chad, where did he go in rookie drafts the year he came out? Do you remember?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
It
Was really high though. Really,
Yeah.
really high.
Yeah.
I remember him being a big prospect. It wasn't even for Dallas. Who? Oh, Raiders.
Oakland. Yeah.
He might have went 101. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know it was really, really, really high.
Yeah.
But I'd say for the last 3 or 4 seasons in a row, he's been worth a late second. No problem.
With moments where he's worth 2 seconds.
Yeah. When he's got when he had Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
And they were balling out together last year for a while.
Yeah, which makes me think I think he's got a good chance to see a value spike. That's why I was asking if you're buying. He's got a quarterback who's not scared to throw anything. And Amari's looked bad this year. He's already got 9 drops on the season.
That's his game, though.
Well, it's also I don't think he was happy in that offense, and the offense was abysmal. Probably going to be a lot happier with Josh Allen throwing the ball.
Yeah, he's going to be more engaged,
So,
less concentration lapses.
He's always been a low efficiency player. So yeah, it'll be really, really fun to watch him in that Buffalo offense. I think he's better than every wide receiver on that team. So
agreed.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Kyle Pitts.
Am I likely holding personally?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's going to be a better option you can trade for that I'm gonna be happier with.
Still only 24.
Yeah, and I'm fine if he leaves Atlanta. So that doesn't upset me either. Because he'll get another full contract before you even have to start even thinking about his age.
What do you think about Pitts, Chad?
With your roster, you've kind of got to
trade everything and get as
you've got
many
to trade
assets
everything,
like
man.
that, right?
You can't afford to keep anything.
Right.
So it's just about timing with Pitts, right? Now's not a good time, but you've got to keep your eye open for but the potential that he starts going off if he gets into that tight end, top 4 category there. Hype comes up a little bit and maybe it's time to move off him. but
I have to hope for top 10 territory. Really, I think is more realistic for him.
he's already top
Well,
10.
he's already
Is
that.
he?
Yeah.
I mean, but do you have him in the top 10 of your dynasty tight ends?
Absolutely.
You
Yeah,
do?
of
Okay.
course.
Where
Yeah.
where do you have him?
Somewhere in that.
6, 7, I don't know.
Yeah, I was
Somewhere
gonna
around
say
there.
5 to
Just
8
off the top of my
range.
head.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a lot of owner shame with Pitts because, I drafted him high and paid a
Me
lot
too.
for him.
Mhm.
So I own him in places, and like in this league in particular, I took him in the 3rd round with 303 in a third round
I mean,
reversal.
it's not as bad of a lot. I mean, people have done a lot worse with Pitts.
Yeah. I took him in the first round of a startup. I remember that 112.
So, but that leads to a lot of shame where I think he's not worth as much as he really is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Eh,
It
yeah.
doesn't take much. It doesn't take much for a guy like Pitts to jump up, the production board here at tight end. I mean, he's been awful as far as what he's been able to produce this season. He's still tight end 9,
Yeah.
and he's been
Exactly.
awful. So I
He had
mean,
a 0. He had
yeah,
a game where he played and had a 0. So,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of haters, but there's a lot of people, like Austin and I were obvious believers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think a lot of those guys still exist.
Last 2 weeks, though, I mean, there's been some kind of sparks. So
Mhm.
I'm just saying, keep an eye on it. You never know if it just clicks with Kirk Cousins later down the season. We all know,
Yeah, he's made some
things
big
like that can
plays,
happen.
some big splash plays. I would like to see him start getting some volume. I think that's his issue.
They haven't needed to. They've been able to run the ball so effectively.
Mm.
They haven't needed. I mean, I think they ran the ball like 30 times last week.
Yeah, they
So
had 200-yard rushers.
yeah, so they're not going to need to. What we need as Pitts managers is them to get behind.
Yeah, their defense isn't terrible either. So I guess that's
Yeah.
Well, they've got Seattle coming up, and then they got Tampa Bay again, which Tampa Bay was his best game. Makes sense because that was a kind of like a little shootout there.
Yeah.
He'll have the Seattle game, and then which I think should be an interesting game. Hopefully, it's high scoring, and then with Tampa, hopefully he can do what he did in week 5.
So what's an offer that would make you trade him now? Like if someone came to you with an offer, realistically.
I mean, I'm not moving him for a first, so it's going to take more than that.
Yeah, I just don't think you're gonna be able to move him now. That's the thing. You've got to hold him.
Okay.
You've got to hold him and hope that he kicks on. He's 24. I mean, you've got time. It's not like you have to get rid of him this season. But I just mean long term, you can't afford to just say, you know what, I'm holding Pitts regardless of what happens here. You just can't afford it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I don't look at any players on this roster that way. Everybody kind of must go. It's a fire sale.
Yeah.
We talked about Evan Ingram a little bit, but as a standalone value, 2 seconds.
I'd buy him for that.
All right. You
I
would sell him
think
for that?
I don't know if I would for a late second in 26 as well. I think he's, as we just saw 1 week, which, maybe this week that changes. He just changes the whole offense for Jacksonville. He instantly comes a focal point, and there's no reason he's not going to do it again this week. So I'm not pressed on moving him, but he's a player I would love to package with somebody, kind of like you just did, and upgrade. Because I don't think you can get a first.
Yeah.
But in 0.75, I kind of feel like that's about his price point, like a late first. Maybe a future one.
The age will keep people. He's 30. People aren't going to want to,
Yeah.
and he just doesn't have the name value of Kittle or Kelsey.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you and I don't disagree. He's one of those players that's hard for me to sell for cheap.
Yeah. I
because
don't
the
want to. I
production's
don't want
there.
to do it.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, it's one of those things. Sometimes you just dig yourself into a hole where you're forced to get rid of guys cheaper than you want to. And this might be that scenario where Evan Ingram, you can't hold him past this season. Like, he's 30 years old. He's 31. It's just another year on the clock. Who knows what that Jacksonville offense is going to look like next season. I mean, you've got to get rid of him. I'm not saying give him away, but you've got to try to probe the league and see where you can get rid of him for 2 seconds plus, hopefully.
Yeah.
All right, Gesicki.
A
I'm just
third.
looking to throw in to sweeten the deal.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay. Javante. That's an interesting name. We can't talk about the fact that he blew up.
Right on time.
So yeah, right. So this is he had been doing little things each week to get better, and then last week 6, he wasn't so great. But then
Yeah.
this week he blows up. So are people believing in Javante? And if they do, what can I expect to get for him?
Probably 2 seconds is what you're hope for.
All right. What about a wide receiver? Jameson?
Yeah, maybe. I'm kind of anti Jameson, so I'm not anti Javante. I think he's got a decent chance to go somewhere else next year and see a value spike. So I don't, as a rebuilder, I'm totally fine with moving him, but he's not a piece to me that's like, 'cause he's only 24. He's not a piece to me that's like, oh my God, he has to go.
What young
Right.
wide receiver would you want for him?
Mm,
Lad?
ugh, I don't think you can get it, but yeah,
That's
heck yeah.
crazy, isn't it?
Heck
That's
yeah,
crazy.
that'd be awesome.
That's nuts. I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Um,
Xavier Leggett.
that's probably about where you're at, to be honest.
Yeah. Chad, do you have an idea?
He's a guy I'd be trying to package. You're not going to get what he's worth in this league, especially. Again, not going to bring up the whole wide receiver or running back premium in this league, but yeah, you're not going to get what he probably should be worth. But
What do you think?
I would give him some time. I mean, I would give him some time to find his feet. Hopefully he does. And maybe you can get, the equivalent of 2 seconds. I don't think you're going to get a first for him at this, anytime soon. So
what do you think of the idea of, so the next player in the list, there's probably nobody hotter, right? Is Bucky Irving. So package him with Bucky Irving. How high can I get? Puka?
I mean, oh no, not in my opinion. I think that's crazy.
Not us. Okay,
but
that's nuts.
I'm
kind of trying to think of like some hurt players that people might, a lot of times there's some hurt people on their IR that they want to deal away to get a couple starters.
Yeah. I mean, the best hope, in my opinion, is you could package something and get the Waddle. That's like the player for me right now.
Wow,
that
okay.
like, and I don't think Bucky and Javante gets that. It wouldn't for me. Maybe I'm too low on Bucky, but
I think people are pretty high on Bucky Irving.
one player I'd be kind of just testing the waters with a little bit here, not saying that that trade is going to get done with those two players, but just in general, a wide receiver that I'd be testing the waters with is Jordan Addison, and seeing how frustrated his owner is with him at this point. He may be a guy that you kind of take a risk on at this point in where you're at in this league.
I like Addison. I would take a risk on him. So would you offer both of those, Bucky Irving and Javante, for Waddle or for Addison? I mean, there's two entirely different level players, actually.
I don't think they're that far apart.
I don't think they're that far apart either.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Waddle's plummeted. Now I'm not selling at that plummet. People, I have a lot of shares. Don't go send in at plummet price. But I think his value's plummeted, like pretty far down.
I think you can probably get away with asking for in this league. And this kind of sounds crazy for me to say, but throw Bucky Irving and a third and see if you can get Addison. See where the owner's at. I've seen some crazy trades with Addison. People basically giving him away as if he's worth 2 seconds or something.
It doesn't surprise me because, well, and just Bucky Irving's a really, really hot name right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And in this format, again, just you probably do have to remind people of the format. But in this format, I don't see why not. Well, I mean, why you couldn't get Bucky Irving and why you couldn't trade away Bucky Irving and a little bit on top for a guy like Jordan Addison, who, I mean, in the eyes of people, some people are really, really suffering at the moment.
All right. Just sent it. I'll let you know how it works out. All right, let's send one for Waddle.
I'm fine trying both. The only problem is now Javante's played, so they're not getting the points this week.
Sure, it's gonna be tough to trade Javante.
That's the negative. I'd be fine with Bucky and Pittman for Waddle and see if you can squeeze a young player you like.
What do you think, Chad?
Well, what was the trade? Pittman and who?
Bucky
for
Waddle and just a young player you like. I don't know who they have and this and that, but you're getting out of the player you want to get out of, selling high on a player that I personally don't believe is going to be a long-term fantasy asset for somebody who I do believe is a long-term fantasy asset.
I don't think the current value is that much different on Waddle and Pittman. I'd ask for 2 seconds and see what you get away with. Even if they're future seconds. Yeah.
Send 2 seconds for Waddle, you're saying?
No. I would say if you're sending that package, if you're sending Pittman and Bucky Irving, try to get back Waddle in 2 seconds.
Pittman, Irving. The guy, the guy that has Waddle is rebuilding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's probably not going to happen.
That. Yep. Yeah. Next.
Yeah. I'm not going to send anything to him because it's not going to go anywhere. He's got some young pieces, but he's not contending.
Yeah, I think Waddle and Pittman are both like in the same boat here. I think they're both late first. Waddle's dropped pretty significantly. I think anybody that's trading him away is trading him away for a late first. Anybody else is they're holding him just because the talent they've seen from him. But
I'd love to pay that price for him.
Yeah, me
I'd
too.
probably have like 100% market share if I could get that in every league.
If you get him for what?
A late first.
What do the calculators say? Just curious.
They have Waddle sandwiched in between Dak Prescott and Jamison Williams. Jonathan Brooks is right below him. Monty, JJ McCarthy,
Dak Prescott
Addison, and Jamison Williams. Yeah, I don't know why. Dak's dropped a lot, and so is Waddle. But that's one thing we've noticed this year is keep trade cuts really down on Goff and Prescott. That's the two players we've noticed when we've had these discussions.
I'm like, that seems really, really low on Dak.
Yeah,
which we won't get into, but
yeah, let's skip that. So Derrick Henry is the skill player right above Waddle. Jamison Williams is right below him.
late first, right? Is
Jonathan Brooks, Monty, Jordan Addison. So he's they're not too far apart.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Next is Russell Wilson.
I'm holding unless somebody gives me a second today. But as you've had no luck with Dalton, who's started and at least looked competent, I can't imagine you're going to have any luck with Russ. So I'm just hoping for a second. Or hoping he plays good.
I'm thinking I would take a third.
No, heck no.
A third? Are you
No. He's a better asset than Andy Dalton. You do not take less.
He's probably going to start.
I think he's going to start this week and look really bad for a few weeks and then be done.
So you think that they're looking at what with their record, they're seeing what Justin Fields is doing, and they're saying, you know what, screw it, let's ruin our season and throw Russell Wilson in. They obviously see something, so you're gonna say, okay, well, I'm gonna give up this guy who's going to start NFL games for a random third. Go back and look at your every pick that you across your leagues with in the third round and see how many hits you have.
I mean, it's terrible. I understand, but I'm just all right.
You can be out on them. That's fine.
I'm
but-
not saying I would do that at this moment, but I think I'm going to settle for that eventually.
I would
chance
not
for
say
me.
I would die. I would die with Russell Wilson before I trade him for a third.
Agreed.
At no point is his upside worth giving away for a third.
So
because his upside is starting NFL quarterback,
Yeah,
which
starting for the Carolina Panthers next year, which is
Yeah.
totally realistic, especially with Dave Canales there.
So we're at straight up Eminem, Rihanna, like burn this to the ground. Over
there is a certain point, right?
I will
with
burn.
a player,
I will burn this entire shit down with him
Yeah.
strapped to the bed.
there's
is what
just
you're
there's just a certain point where you're saying, okay, like if I cannot get rid of this guy right now for a second, then I've either got to give him away for a third, which is basically just giving him away,
Yep.
or I've got to hold to see if he ever is worth a second. And with a guy that has the potential to start NFL games at the quarterback position, I'm never willing to just give him away, especially with a brand name like Russell Wilson. I'm never willing to just give him away for a third because the chances are you get a replacement that does anything that's worth anything other than, sitting on your taxi squad for 3 seasons before you cut him. Is,
Yeah. All right. I got you. So there's not much else on this roster worth talking about. There is Tua on my IR. Obviously, I'm not trading him now.
Correct.
I mean, I think it's hard to even really talk about what he could be worth in the future. I think he's
Let's just save that discussion personally.
something that I'm just gonna probably not trade.
Yeah.
Probably the only thing I'm gonna probably just
correct.
Yeah, you probably got
expect to carry over to next season. Jalen Tolbert, throw-in material. You think people would take him as a throw-in?
I'd
Sweetener.
love to sell him for whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty much everything else you got, minus Keenan Allen, praying he keeps playing good
Keenan
and trying to get a second for him.
Yeah, I forgot about him. Okay.
Otherwise, again, he can be another player you throw in to try to get a better asset.
Yeah.
Otherwise, man, they're in a single piece on here that minus Charbonnet on your bench that I wouldn't give away for a third or sell some of them a fourth. Most of them a fourth, if we're going to be honest.
Yeah, most of them have no value. So, last question. I have a 26 first, extra 26 first. Should I offer it for Waddle right now?
Is it on a good team?
It's that guy. He's 2-4, but he's got a lot of injuries, and he won the league.
Is it an old? I haven't looked. Is it an old roster 2-4, or is it he's just hurt 2-4? Is his name Target Share?
His name is the
Anarchist.
Anarcho-Bidenists.
Okay.
It's not really that old. I mean, there's some old stuff.
It's pretty old, if we're gonna be honest.
Nah, I should probably hold that first.
Yeah, I'd probably hold that first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Certainly not giving my first up for a damn thing in the entire world.
No.
I mean, Jane Daniels.
Yeah, I probably would do that.
It's one of those teams you look at and you're like, man, how did they win the league? Like you actually got to go back in the history and look at it just to believe it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just
Good
not
for
very
him.
good.
Good for him.
Absolutely. Good for him for sure, but whew.
Yeah, well, I also have to say, I lost my train of thought. I'm done with that roster.
So you didn't have to say it?
No, I don't have to
You
say
didn't really
that
need to say that.
There's no sentence that's better before you forget what you're gonna say than, I have to say.
Oh, perfect setup. All right. Austin, what is the scariest thing you watched this week?
Probably Insidious 3.
Ooh, that sounds insidious.
Yeah,
that
that's a
sounds
good one.
super insidious. Was it
I'm
good?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I enjoy the Insidious movies a lot. I think I'm gonna watch the second one tonight after we get off here.
Was that the
I
first time you saw it?
No, mm-mm. Nah, me and my lady are horror movie freaks, which we're not like. I don't. That's not the right word. We enjoy them. We
Okay.
don't watch every horror movie ever, but we watch
Enthusiasts.
a lot of. Yeah, we just enjoy them. But no, I've seen it 5 or 6 times easy.
Chad, I can't wait to hear the answer to this. What is the scariest thing that you've watched this week?
I mean, nothing's been scarier than this roster.
I thought you were going to say Coco Melon. Isn't that the thing your kid was addicted to?
Yeah. Now it's Puffin Rock, which is a Netflix exclusive. I think they
It's
created
what's it called?
Netflix. Puffin Rock.
Oh boy,
Yeah,
I've heard that on the street corner too.
yeah. It's a really good show. It's a really good show. And then what's
my
the other
God.
one? It's Bluey. Bluey's the other one.
Oh yeah,
Baby Blue.
Fantastic
can't knock
show.
on that one.
Yeah.
Did they mean to call themselves Smoking Rocks?
He's puffing, not smoking.
Puffin Rock.
He's just puffing on it. Oh my God.
Not Puffin Rocks. Puffin Rock.
just one rock.
You know,
not
I
multiple.
never really
Just
thought
one
of that.
Big ass rock.
Yeah, I never thought of
Whoa.
that, but that is
That's a name right there.
that's hilarious.
Well, that
It's
kills
about
my-
puffins. You guys know the bird puffin?
Yeah, they're cute.
Yes, I
Yeah.
do. They're very cute. I bet you get a puffin addicted to some crack rock.
Jesse, what's the scariest thing you watched? Did you watch anything we recommended last week?
I watched Salem's Lot.
Okay, what'd you think?
It was right up my alley.
There you go. Okay.
There was vampires, but who's afraid of vampires at this point in their lives? I mean, most vampire movies, like
Be
they were
real.
kind of cute. There was one guy, little guy in his like little funeral suit and his red eyes. I was like, oh, I felt like I could have just like held him by the forehead and been all right. Like he couldn't have
You
gotten
think
to
so?
me.
You think
Yeah.
that would have worked?
Yeah, I do.
I'm
So
sure.
it was good. It was, and I like that it kept moving along quickly. I don't like slow developing, like 3-hour
Yeah.
horror movies. Just
Yep.
get
My
on with
lady
it.
watched that last week. She said it was good too.
Get on with it. Scare me or not scare me, whatever you're gonna do, and I have things to do.
Fair enough.
I would say that's about it.
Oh, well, at least it was something.
Yeah. All right. I think that's all I got. You guys got anything else?
I don't think so.
No, I think that's good, man.
No.
All right. This has been the front office.
Peace.